And for more on this, Peter Kuznick, a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University, is joining us live from Washington, D.C. Good morning to you, Professor, and thanks for your time. Now, we have reports of missiles being used in what is being called a limited attack. Now, both Israel and Iran have played it down. What's your view on this matter? Can one conclude that it is the end of direct attacks between Israel and Iran, and the world can finally expect de-escalation?
It looked like the direct attacks on Israel and Iran had ended after Israel's very limited strike yesterday against Isfahan in Iran. But now tonight we've got this explosion in Iraq, and the Iranians and the Iraqis are pointing the finger at Israel. Israel and the United States are denying this, but what it shows is that the situation in the region is so volatile, so precarious, that anything could trigger it now. And so while it looks like both Iran and Israel were trying to tamp it down and downplay and minimize the latest round of attacks on each other, this is a major development. The Iranians attacked Israel from Iranian soil, and the Israelis apparently responded from Israeli soil, attacking each other, which was a major escalation. But the Israeli response was deliberately designed not to further escalate the situation, which really began on April 1st with the Israeli attack on the Iranian diplomatic facility in Damascus. So we are already seeing this tit-for-tat cycle of retaliation. However, the ladder of escalation seemed to be slowed, and there seemed to be a deliberate effort on both countries' parts to prevent this from escalating further into a broad regional war. And we know that a regional war, you look at what the Iranians sent at Israel the other night, between 300 and 350 missiles and drones that were used to attack Israel. Well, the estimate is that Hezbollah in Lebanon has 150,000 rockets and missiles and drones. So if they could try to overwhelm the Israeli defense system with 300 or 350, imagine the damage that would be done if there was a full-scale attack from Hezbollah or from Iran or from Iran's proxies in the area. So we are in a very precarious situation at a very crucial moment, and we are hoping that cooler heads prevail on all sides and do everything that's necessary to tamp this down and to look for a ceasefire in Gaza and a diplomatic resolution to an untenable and very dangerous situation.
Right. So you speak of how the ladder of escalation has rather slowed down in West Asia at the moment. The pertinent question being is that, has this de-escalation happened on its own, or do you think there is another player or entity involved? And if so, who is the player?
I think that none of the principals want to see an escalation and a broadening right now. There is a lot of pressure within the Israeli cabinet from the extreme right-wingers for a much more demonstrative, decisive, dramatic response from Israel to the Iranian drone attack, which is being portrayed as excessive, as much bigger than the Israelis were expecting. So we know the security cabinet member and other cabinet members, the extreme right-wingers, are putting pressure on Netanyahu to respond much more strongly, fiercely, destructively to the Iranian attack. There are also elements inside Iran. The hardliners there want to see much more aggressive action on Iran's part. The region has a lot of extremists on all sides. There are Islamic extremists, there are Jewish extremists, and then you've got the United States, which has very little influence right now with the Netanyahu government. And so, plus the other actors throughout the region make this an explosive situation, which is why diplomacy immediately is so crucial, because we could even get a war happening, even though none of the principal players want to see that happen. That doesn't mean it can't happen by mistakes, miscalculations, accidents. This situation is just too volatile at the moment.
Right, Mr. Kuznick. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on WION with your insights.
Thank you.